So good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Five Census 2020, Ensuring the Count for All Young Children webinar. I'm Jason Wells with First Five, and this is Becca Carcel, our health access trainer, who will be doing the training today. And Becca has been doing this training kind of all around the county in person for a lot of the agencies that we partner with, and maybe she's already come to your agency. But we wanted to give folks an opportunity to see this online if you haven't been to one of her trainings, or if you're going to use the recording to be able to show later, to review later, or show to your staff, because we think it's a great training. Just a little bit of background before Becca gets started. If you had asked me 6 months ago if what I knew about census and what we needed to know about census and how important it was, I would have said, probably not a lot. I didn't know a whole lot. And First Five at the state and First Five Association has really come out and tried to encourage First Fives, or local First Fives, First Five San Luis Obispo County, to get the word out about census and try to reach those families that are hard to reach, hard to count, that Becca's going to tell you more about, and make sure that everybody knows how important census is. So we're doing this for you guys, and we hope that you'll use it as an opportunity to learn more about census and to really get out there and promote and amplify the message of census and how important it is. So I'm glad a few of you have joined us, and I guess with that, I'm going to hand it over to Becca, and I'll go ahead and go off video. And what we're going to do, by the way, is we will have time for questions during some of the sections that Becca's going to go through. She is going to, we'll have a chance to, if you guys want to type in questions, I'm going to try and monitor those. And then at the end of the webinar, we're going to unmute everybody and let you ask questions. And one quick side note, this is our first time doing this. And so if we run into any technical difficulties, we apologize, but hopefully you all are seeing this and can hear us and see the slides. Also, the slides are available, Becca's going to let you know about that, on the Health Access website. I think that's it. Anything more, Becca, before we get going?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so let me stop this. And Becca, I'll let you go ahead and take over.
Thank you so much, Jason. So as Jason said, the slides are available at our website, which is on the screen right now in the bottom left corner, slohealthaccess.org. So if you are at a computer and you want to download that, feel free to do that. And then, yes, as Jason was saying, census is actually super important, and we're going to talk a little bit about why it's important. And then give you some nuts and bolts information, and then talk about some messaging for families and how you guys can help get the word out. So what is the census? Article 1 of the US Constitution tells us that a census has to take place every 10 years to determine representation in Congress. And the first census was in 1790, and we've been having a census every 10 years since, without fail. That's okay. So it's a really long-standing tradition that we are participating in at this point. Now, why does the census matter? So it matters for demographics. Census data is used to plan for local and state resources, like where to build schools and hospitals, where to locate Head Starts or WIC clinics. All of our partner agencies look at this data to see where our young children are and our families are. But the census happens only once every 10 years. So if we undercount, if we get bad data, then we have bad data for 10 years of planning. There are certain groups who tend to be undercounted. Those are especially our Latino families, our immigrant families, our low-income families, and especially our 0 to 5-year-olds. And that's why First Five is particularly interested in this, because we want to have good data for planning. Another reason it matters is for representation, right? The original purpose and the core purpose of the census is to determine the number of representatives we have in the House of Representatives. So if we undercount California, we don't get as many representatives. in the House of Representatives, and in the Electoral College to determine who's president. This information is also used to draw state assembly and Senate boundaries. It can affect local boundaries like county supervisors and city councils. So even down to our very local level, the census data is used to make sure that we are represented. And in that sense, the census is power. It's political power. So if when communities of color, when immigrants and low-income families are undercounted, they lose political power and they remain invisible. So we really need to let our communities know that this is how they gain power, and how that people know that they are out there and need to be planned for, and need services, and need to be held accountable to their needs. So it's really people's chance to be part of the political process, even if they can't vote. It's very, and then another reason it matters is funding. So census data often determines federal funding allocations for all sorts of things, from road maintenance projects to school programs. Really essential neighborhood resources rely on federal funding that's based on the information we collect during the census. So let's look at that in a little more detail. Here are a few of the federal programs funded by Census Count. Many should look familiar to you: Medi-Cal, CalFresh, CalWorks, some of our school meal programs, our Section 8 housing, Head Start, WIC, even some of our Title I and special education school funding. There are actually around 300 federal programs that rely on census data to allocate funding. So California receives about $115 billion in federal funds that are guided by data derived from the census. So this is a lot of money that can be at stake. And when everybody responds to the census, then we have more access to public programs that support our families and our children. How much can we lose is another important question. So California estimates that in the 2010 census, we lost about $3 billion by failing to count about 1.5 million residents. That's a lot of money. It's estimated that we lose about $2,000 per resident per year in federal funding when we don't count them. So about $20,000 per person over 10 years. So each one of us who gets counted is really important to funding programs at a very local level. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our 0 to 5 undercount, because we are here for first 5. So nationwide, we had about 5% of kids are estimated to have been missed in 2010, about 1 million young children. And California has the highest estimated rate of undercount, almost 8%. So why are young children missed? About 2/3 of uncounted young children probably live in complex households. So complex households are multi-generational, extended families, and multifamily households. So a lot of our families here on the Central Coast. Young children are much more likely to be missed if the person filling out the form is not their parent. So it's just probably situations where, a grandparent is filling out the form, or an uncle or aunt and isn't thinking about that child, or another family is filling out the form and missing that child. If you look at that slide, Census Bureau research actually finds that 80 to 85% of young children who were missed in 2010 were living in households that returned their census survey. So it's not so much a matter of folks who don't turn it in at all as folks who are actually missing the young children when they turn it in. So that's one way you can really help, is by getting the word out to count all children. Then young children are also missed just because of confusion. Some people think children shouldn't be included in the census. Some people are confused when you report a child if you have shared custody or have a newborn. I want to note there that if you know someone in a situation with shared custody, whoever has majority custody should report them, and if it's equal, whoever would have them on April 1st, which is Census Day, can report them. And all newborns should be counted, even if they're still in the hospital, as long as they're born on April 1st. So I like to tell people, have your babies by April 1st. We don't need any April 2nd babies. Okay. And then finally, of course, fear and distrust. Some people just don't trust the government. And then, as we know, in California, there are almost 2 million children under age 5 living with at least one undocumented parent who may be afraid to fill out the census. And we'll talk some about messaging we can tell those folks. And some people may live in a situation where they're afraid this information will get to a landlord where they're not allowed to have that child. And again, we need to really reassure people that that doesn't happen. And we'll give you some more information about that in a couple minutes. So that concludes the first part of my presentation about why the census is important. Do we have any questions at this point? Jason?
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions and you want to type them in, please do so now. I'm going to check. It doesn't look like we have any questions, but I will let people know or check to see if anybody has, and I'm not seeing any right now, but we'll keep our eye on that. Yeah, and just as a reminder, we're going through each section, and you can type in your questions throughout if you want, and we'll be checking on that. And then at the end, we're going to unmute everybody to be able to answer questions if some of them come up for you.
Okay, great. So let's do a little bit of the nuts and bolts here. So here's a timeline. April 1st is the official census day. But this is the first digital census. So it's kind of like absentee voting now. You have the opportunity to respond over a period of time. And it's a much longer timeline than we're used to if you happen to remember a past census. So from March 12th to 20th, invitations, little postcards are going to be sent in the mail. And once people get that postcard, they can fill out their census form in many different ways, by phone, online on a computer or on a smartphone, or they can wait for a paper copy to be sent to them in the mail. They do have this opportunity to self-respond, so they don't need to wait for a door-to-door count. That can actually be a reassuring message for folks. Then let's see, so March to July, you'll see on there is sort of self-response time, and it's also the time where we motivate people to respond. This is the time where it's really important to get the word out. We know that people have to see things, they say like 7 times before it really sinks in. So that's why we ask everybody to really start messaging now and telling people, hey, the census is coming, look for your card in the mail in March. And then by mid-April, if they haven't filled it out, people will start getting a printed copy in the mail. And then starting in May, census workers will start visiting addresses that haven't responded even by the printed copy and help them fill out the form in person. So people who aren't comfortable with someone coming to their home should fill it out in March or April by telephone, smartphone, online, paper copy, some form. I do want to stress to people that though those federal workers who come to the door aren't some scary folks coming from Washington, D.C., I think it's important to remind our families that these are actually folks who are hired locally. Even some of our family serving staff are doing this, a lot of Cal Poly students, and there may still be jobs available. So check out Census Jobs if you're interested. It's a short-term but highly paying job. And then a couple other little points about the nuts and bolts. So those postcards come in the mail, they have a code to just help the census make sure, figure out who's responded from what address, but you can fill it out if you don't have a code. So if you have 2 or 3 families in a home and one family fills it out and uses their code, another family can still get on the phone or online and fill it out on their own without a code. Addresses with more than one family living at them, though, should really try to coordinate if possible to put everyone on one survey. But I know that's not realistic a lot of times, so we're really encouraging families to just fill out their own surveys if they weren't able to coordinate. Okay. They do ask for a phone number on the census of the person filling it out, and that is to just ask questions like, hey, we have 2 different families reporting the same address, what's with that? So if if 2 surveys are filled out, they might get a phone call. That's helpful if they can explain that, but they also don't have to answer that phone call. So at this point in our in-person presentation, we actually hand out samples of the actual paper census, but I do want to share with you that if you just Google, sample census 2020, you can actually just look at a sample of it online, and you'll see that there are 9 questions for the person who's filling it out and about house, 7 questions for each additional person in the household. It's very basic. Okay, so
and what I have heard is about 10 questions, about 10 minutes. But I've heard it might go a little bit longer, depending on the number of members in the household.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can let folks know that generally it's not going to take a long time, and they can have somebody help them if they want. And also, this is probably a good time to say that there'll be people throughout the county, Head Start included, who's going to be doing some after-hours support for families if they need help to come in and work on census together.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I should add there that it's really easy to help someone with this. You don't need training. The questions are very simple. What's your name? How old are you? What's your ethnicity, your race? If somebody needs help with it, just please feel free to jump in and help them. Okay, great. Any questions about the nuts and bolts? Okay.
Checking right now. I'm not seeing any questions, but feel free. If you guys have any questions, there should be a chat box there, I'm hoping. Again, this is new to us, but we believe there is a chat box. I'm just checking one thing here. So let's see here. Let me just close that. Okay. Yeah. You had a question?
No, it's okay. I
Okay.
guess that's right. Okay,
All right.
great. Well, let's go on then to some messaging, how you can help get the word out.
Let me see. Oh yeah, Bailey probably came in as no video. Okay.
It's good that way. Okay, click. Okay, so basic messaging at a minimum. This is really helpful if you can share with folks. The census is coming. Do you know about it? Get the word out, right? It's easy, 10 minutes or less, as Jason says, hopefully, but more or less. This is your chance to make a difference in your neighborhood. So remember when we talked about getting heard, bringing funding to our basic programs. This is really a chance that people can make a difference. And then you and your family deserve to be counted. Everybody deserves to be counted. Of course, count all children in your house. That's our biggest message, probably. You can fill out your census in lots of ways, online or by telephone. You don't need to wait for someone to come to your house. Fill it out early to avoid a home visit, right? So really easy messaging. Then let's go into a couple of different situations here. Messaging about safety. We know folks can be concerned about safety. So do keep in mind that this census will not ask if anyone is a citizen. That question was never put on the census. And it will ask nothing about immigration status at all.
That bears repeating. There is no citizenship question, and they will not ask about your immigration status.
Thank you. And actually we'll talk more about this, but they also will not ask for any social security number. So by law, the Census Bureau must keep information private. They are not allowed to share that information with other government agencies or with other people. And that's really important. The census can only be used for statistical purposes. It can't be used in any way that would harm anyone. And law enforcement is not a statistical purpose. And then all individual census workers have to take an oath to protect that personal information, and breaking that law includes a fine up to $250,000 and 5 years in prison. So it's clearly taken very seriously. Then as far as safety goes, we also remind people they don't have to answer the phone or open the door if they don't feel safe, and only they can really decide what's best for their family. So we're really encouraging people to do this, but they ultimately have to make that final decision. Okay, so messaging about fraud. It's a little concerning, of course, that there can be some scams and fraud going on during this time. So people really need to know that the Census Bureau never sends emails. They don't ask for social security numbers, bank accounts, credit cards, money. They don't stand in front of Walmart either. Nothing like that. And if someone does have a home visit, there are things you can do to make sure that they're an official census worker if you're not sure. Checking a badge, has a photograph, commerce watermark, expiration date, and then here's a phone number on the slide that people can call if they just want to check the identity of the person at the door. We put this information into a handout in English and Spanish that's also available on our website, slohealthaccess.org. So if you want to download that and hand it out to folks, or this is all taken from the census website too that you can go to. And the census link is on our website. Okay, then if you're speaking with non-English speaking parents, they should know that if they respond online or by phone, they will find it in Spanish or 11 other languages. And there are video and printed guides in 59 non-English languages. The only caveat is that the Mixteco dialects are not supported. So we're really asking everyone to pitch in and help folks to fill it out if they don't speak Spanish or English. And all of our partners, like Head Start, are trying to do that as well. So if you can help anybody who speaks a Mixteco language, or if you can lead them to somebody who can, that would be really appreciated because there is not census support.
Let me add one note on that, where while Becca is encouraging staff from other agencies to help out, it should be known that anybody can help anybody do their census. Because you're not a census worker, doesn't mean that you can't help support one of your families. If they're online and they've got a question and you're sitting there with them, they can't read something, or if they're uncertain about something, it's totally okay to help them get online, totally okay to help them fill out their form. Well, they need to fill it out, but you can help them walk through the questions. You don't have to be a census worker to do that.
Great, thank you. Very, very important point. And then a final message just for low literacy parents. If parents aren't comfortable with a form or an online form, please just tell them, pick up the telephone. This is a super easy messaging. Is just make that phone call. You don't need to be able to read to fill out the census. And then we always remind people, include all children living at that address. And I just want to go back. Some people have asked me, well, there's 3 different houses and it's all at this address. There's a couple back houses. That actually is all one address then. If the Postal Service considers it a single address, we got to get everybody from all of those houses onto one census form, or we need to have them file a separate, census survey, but with the same address. It'll be a queue that they'll just get one postcard. So, okay, so before we look for questions, let's talk a little bit about resources too and how you can help. So our website has a handout for parents. It's that SLO County Kids Count that you're looking at there on the slide, in English and Spanish that you can download at slohealthaccess.org. And we also have other resources there, more frequently asked questions, some coloring pages, some pre-K activities that the Census Bureau put out that are really cute. So please go take a look at our website resources and download those and hand them out to folks. And then if you would like us to bring you things, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so here are ways you can amplify the message. If your agency does social media, please just follow First 5 SLO County and repost our Facebook and Instagram posts about the census. It's really great way to get the word out. As we said, it takes a lot of times hearing about it before people do it, and social media is a great way to remind people. And our posts have a lot of great messaging explaining some of the ins and outs of the census in English and Spanish, I should add. And then if you can market on site, so if you can put up posters, we have some that we can bring to you for your site. If you can wear a button saying, ask me about the census, we can bring that for your staff. Those handouts for parents, if you can print them off and give them out, or let us know if you need us to bring you some. The coloring pages, you can put up children's art and send it home with parents. We also have a newsletter article we can send you in English and Spanish that you can put out to your parents. And then what else? Anything you can think of at your site that would be helpful. Promotions are also really helpful. If you could do a raffle or a celebration, some other event on April 1st, the official Census Day, if you can find a computer lab or just invite parents to come and do their census together, those would all be really helpful also. And we will support you in any way we can in making that happen. So buttons, flyers, and posters, if you do need them and want them delivered, there's Jason's email right there at the bottom, jwells@first5slo.org. So please reach out if you do need those.
Let me go ahead and jump in here. One thing I want to say about, well, first the materials. Yeah, we have a good supply of flyers. We're going to be ordering some more buttons. We've got some posters. We even have a little bit of swag that we may be using at some events. All of this, we have an abundance right now, but it will probably, some of it will go fairly quickly, and we don't have an unlimited supply. But we want to be able to share this with you and our partners in the community. So yes, please email me and let me know if you have a need for some materials. Also check with your agency, depending on who is online listening or watching this, because a lot of agencies in the county have a census effort underway, and your agency may have created some flyers, posters, and buttons as well. The other thing I wanted to say about the general messaging, and Becca covered this quite a bit on the slide where she was talking about things that are working for families, that this is your chance to make a difference in your neighborhood. You deserve to be counted. We put this up here as ideas and thoughts and prompts for you all to use if you need to, but you know your family is best, and you know what messages are going to resonate with them, and you also know what their fears and concerns are, and what you can do. Another thing you can do, I should say, when you are working with them is to help allay those fears, to help answer their questions or guide them to the census website if they want their questions answered, because you know them. And I think because you are a trusted person in their life, you can also be a trusted messenger around census. And that's really what we're hoping we First Five can do for families that we serve, that you all as family serving agencies can do, is do the best you can to reach the communities you serve and the families you serve, to help them understand how important census is.
Great. And then finally, before we see if anyone has questions, just to let you know that if you get questions from families that you're not sure the answer to, don't panic. We all get those questions. Feel free to contact me and I will track down an answer for you. And you can contact me through the contact link on our website at slohelpaccess.org. Or my phone number is, we don't have it on here, but it's 805-674-0776. So don't worry if people hand you a question that is kind of out of left field. We'll find an answer to it. All right, let's see if anybody on the webinar has any questions.
Okay, so I have unmuted everybody. If your volume is up real loud, you might want to turn it down just a bit. But I think everybody, if somebody wanted to ask a question, now would be a great time, because we're listening and we can hear you. See, a few of you are still on there.
All right.
Well,
yeah. Please feel free to follow up. You have Jason's email, you have my contact through the website and my phone number. So if you do have any questions, just reach out anytime and let us know.
Let me ask you this real quick, if anybody's deciding to have any questions. Have there been any common questions that you had to answer or cover that you probably already integrated into your presentation now?
Or, I think I probably have.
or anything that you want to emphasize before we finish up?
I think just I would emphasize the most important thing is really letting people know why this matters. I think that makes a big difference when people understand that it's not just some scary government survey. There's a real purpose for our community that this money brings in. I mean, this census brings in money, it brings political power, and the more people realize that, I think the more they're going to be willing to fill out the survey. So yeah. Please let them know.
Great. Okay, everybody, that is it for our survey. We will post this. We'll have a recording of this if you want to share it with any colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the work you do in the community, and thank you for helping ensure the count of all young children for our Census 2020. With that, take care and have a good day.